Hi everyone, welcome to Pawpaw's Workshop. Well, it's been a busy day in the shop with all the Christmas gifts, and this is the pen making day. I've got my son over and my grandson all pitching in, and we've got a dozen pens or so to be able to make. And this is one example. I want to get up close so that you can see it. This is a pen by Penn State Industries, and quite frankly, all of the pens we're making today are by Penn State Industries. And this is the dog pen, and it's a click pen, and I have engraved with the laser the name of the dog, so it really personalizes the pen. So today I want to show you how we got all of these pens done. So let's get started. After cutting all of the blanks to size, I put my son and grandson to work. They had the task of being able to epoxy in the tubes, the brass tubes, into all of the blanks. So that definitely kept them busy for a while. As you can see, we've got a lot of blanks on the table and a lot of work to be done. But they did a great job of being able to put all of the brass tubes into the blanks so that they could start drying and I could get to work on the turning. When it came time to do the turning, my grandson wanted to be able to try his hand at being able to turn his own pen. And this is a resin blank, and he's doing a really good job. He's taking his time, he's using a carbide tip tool that I actually made in the shop, and he's taking slow, deliberate passes to be able to do the turning. Great job, and I love having him in the shop. And here's a look at the completed pen. And this view doesn't show the true beauty, but this is an absolutely gorgeous pen. I love it. So what I want to do is show you a little bit better look at the same pen. Beautiful. Now it's on to turning one of the many blue line pens that we have to do. And we start out the same way, taking slow, deliberate cuts to be able to get the shape exactly the way it needs to be. Now I've switched over to the carbide tip tool, and what this is allowing me to do is be able to take and work a little bit faster and be able to cut away all of the waste material that I don't need so that I can begin working on that final shape. The part of the pen on the right side is just about at the final shape. And now I'm working on the part on the left side of the pen. Even though I said that I'm moving a little bit faster, this is still a fairly slow process. Working with these resin pen blanks does take a little bit more time, and you have to be careful not to be able to rush too much and cause the pen blank to vibrate or for the tool to actually dig into the material. So again, very slow, deliberate passes is the order of the day. Turning pens on the lathe make an outstanding Christmas gift. It's an item that can literally be used every day. And if you've never done any type of turning, this is a great opportunity to be able to do it and have a rewarding experience. Once all the turning's done, it's time to be able to start the polishing process. And I take this from about 600 grit all the way up to 12,000, and this is a wet sanding process. And you want to make sure that you go through all the grits, and in between you want to make sure that you wipe off all of the residue from the previous grit before moving to the next grit. And that way it really makes for a fantastic scratch-free finish on these pen blanks. Then after all the sanding is completed, you put on the polish and buff it, and this is results. An absolute gorgeous pen. Now I'm starting the process on squaring up the end of the blank for my dog pen. So I've already cut it to length, brass tubes in, and so it's time just to square up the ends. And one of the things you want to make sure that you do is actually get the drill right down to the very tip edge of the brass tube. Just shows a little shiny brass, that's all you want it to be able to do. Now it's time, let's go ahead and put it on the lathe. These are the bushings that are required for this particular pen kit. And once we have that on, we're ready to start the turning. If you're just starting out turning pens, I think you'll find it a lot easier to start out with the wood blank, because the wood blanks actually turn faster and easier than working with the resins. Once you master doing the wood, then it's an easy transition to switch over to the resin type pens. So after just a very few minutes, and I'm speeding up the lathe here, I can do the final shape on this pen blank. And like I said, it doesn't take a lot of time. Now here's a quick look at the blank once it's finished before sanding. So you can see the shape is exactly the way it needs to be. Here's a quick look at how I have my sandpaper organized in order. So in this case, I'm going to start with an 80 grit paper and work all the way up to around 500 grit. And of course, between grits, I stop the lathe and run the sandpaper horizontal between each grit to get those fine little lines out. Now I wanted to do a quick test to be able to engrave Bernie onto a dowel rod. This is the first time that I've done an engraving like this on a round object, and I wanted to make sure that I had it right. So I went ahead and set up my dowel rod. I got it exactly where I wanted it, so then I could start the engraving. This only takes just a few seconds to be able to do, but I wanted to make sure that it's right so I didn't ruin a actual pen blank. I'd rather be able to throw away a little piece of the dowel rod than throw away a blank that I've just spent time turning. But I think that it's well worth it, because in a matter of just a minute or two, it's done and you can see the results. The word Bernie turned out quite nicely on this round dowel rod. So with the test done, now it's time to move on to the real pen blank and do the same thing. Now the pen blank's actually a little bit larger than my dowel rod, so I had to recalibrate and change the z-axis. But once that was done, I set the blank in, aligned it exactly where I wanted it, and of course I needed to be able to stabilize it so it didn't move, and pick the best choice on the side to put the word Bernie. So now that I'm doing the final adjusting, I'm ready to start the engraving process. And again, this only just takes about a minute or so to be able to do, and I think the results are well worth it. So you can see it actually engraving. It's done. Let's see how it looks. There we go, not bad at all. With the engraving done, it's time to put the blank back onto the lathe. The finish I'm going to use is a Star-Bond thin glue. This makes for a fantastic, very long-lasting finish, and it just takes a little bit of time to do. So a few drops on a paper towel, and you just rub it across the blank, and I'm going to put probably 10-15 coats. I'm not counting, but it goes very quickly. Now I'm going to put a link in the description below so that you can purchase this Star-Bond thin glue at a 10% discount. They've got an actual whole line of different types of glues that you can choose from, and you'll be able to get 10% off with the code that I put down in the description. Now once I finish all of the different coats of the thin Star-Bond glue, you can see that it turns out to be a beautiful finish. And the word Bernie that's engraved onto this really looks good with this finish. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start the finishing process with the sanding. And I'm going to use these foam pads, and again I'm going to take it through the different grits all the way up to 12,000. Now this is a wet sanding process, and it really polishes this wood blank just beyond belief. Now the last step in the process of finishing this pen blank is to just get some polish and polish this blank. And you apply it the same way, just use a small cloth and you put the polish on at a very slow speed and then buff it out. Now you judge for yourself, but I think that you would have to agree that this finish is absolutely beautiful. So now let's go ahead and put the pen together. Now I've got all the parts laid out as to how they go in, and now it's time to start assembling the pen. And the first thing we're going to do is put this tip coupler in, and it has a little tapered end right there so that it will be able to go right into that blank. So let's get the press over here and we'll be able to do this. That goes just like that. And then the next thing we want to do is look at this tip. We want to make sure that this plastic mechanism is actually threaded all the way tightly into the sleeve, and it is. So that's good. So then we're going to press this portion into the pin. And I think what I'm going to do is put this right, the little clip, right where the Bernie is. I want to line that up exactly right. And we'll take one more block out. Adjust it one last time. And we'll press that in. Okay. And then from there, we can put this in. And this is screwed into the little plastic part, so it doesn't have to be really tight. There we go. Then we'll slip the pin cartridge in along with the spring. And then we'll screw this tip into that end of the barrel. And there we go. This pin is completed. And that, if I do say so, looks absolutely gorgeous. And I actually love having the name engraved onto the pin. That certainly makes it where it's a personalized pin. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.